In the previous video, we saw how to record a macro. In this video, we are going to see how to write a VBA code which will help us to carry all the information here, the customer's information, the date, as well as the invoice number, and bring it in our sales track automatically, all this with a button. In order to write a VBA code, you come on developer, you take Visual Basic, the Microsoft Visual Basic for application is going to appear, and in order to start a new module or a new code, you come here and you say insert module. We are going to create a new module called Invoice. And in this our code, let's arrange it in such a way that we can be seeing what we are doing here. Okay, we want to create a ring, something that will happen constantly, that will be taking place each time we click on the button. We'll have a ring for each item. In sheets, sales, invoice, where in the range, we want to define the area we are talking about. This is actually the area we are talking about, from C14 to H27. C14 to H27. Yes, that's the range. So for each item in this area, if we want that, if there is, for example, data here, and or yes, data separated this way, there are other areas here which do not have data. We don't want to carry empty spaces to come and put in our sales track. No, we want to ignore the empty spaces and carry only lines which has data. So for each item in this area, if the item value is equal to nothing, meaning if there is nothing there, then what should happen? Nothing should happen, meaning if actually here there is nothing should happen here. So we are not going to put any condition for that. We can put a comment. You can put a comment saying that nothing should happen. Alright, else, meaning should in case there's actually something inside, the else part of our if function. So else, so if there's something inside, what should happen? We want that if there's something inside, it should actually carry the information here and send it in our sales track. For that, we have to define the lines we are concerned, the lines we are actually working with. Okay, so in order to create those lines, we are going to work with we want here to give information to our Excel sheet, the informations about the lines from which we want to copy these informations and the lines where we want to take the informations. Like in our sales track, it has a specific place where the information should come and stand, which is from this C5. That's actually where the information should start entering. And we also want that if we make one invoice, if we validate one invoice, the informations of the invoice maybe take this space. We want that for the next invoice it should not come and replace this space, but it should come below it directly. So this is why we are going to create a particular line, logical, which will always look up to the last line before putting new data. So how do we do that? We say line we are going to have two different lines, or let's say line equals sheets. We first of all select in our code where the line is going to be. It is in sheets sales track, so sheets sales track. Make sure the names of the sheets are well written, else the code is not going to work. Sheet sales track. Now, which range? Actually, we are going to say range. It starts from C, right? C. Let me write this, then I'll explain. C 1 million dot we end at the X line up row +1. Alright, so what does this mean exactly? Meaning in sheet sales track, from the range C 1 million, meaning it will first of all come and select range C 1 million, which is right down, and it is going to end this NXL up, meaning end at the X line up. It will touch C 1 million and come and end at the last line where there was data. So if there's, for example, data here, it will first of all go and touch C 1000, or let me say 1 million, and come back and see the last line where there was data, which is in this row, and stand at +1, meaning it will stand at the line after the last line where there was information. This is to identify where we want to paste the data in our sales track. Let's create another line for data in our sales invoice. So from where should we carry the data? We are going to create another line. Since we have two lines, we have to give different descriptions. We'll say line A, and here we are going to say line B. Now line B is going to be the item row. We already know where the items are found in sheets, in the sales invoice, in this range. C14 to H27. So we are going to be carrying data from the item row, meaning from in this area that we already identified up there. So now what do we want to do? We want to carry the information from here and bring here. So let's come to sales track and let me delete this. So we want that sheet, I have to put it in the code here, sheets sales track sheet sales track range C, where we are here like this. What do we want this? Actually, we are trying to identify the informations which should enter in this line. So we are trying to identify this line. This line is found in sheet sales track in range. This cell, for example, is in range. It's in range C. It's in C5, right? Meaning the value of this cell should be equal to something. Now it should be equal to what? The invoice number. It should be equal to the invoice number. Now we are not going to use C5. We are going to use C and the line in question. The line that we created already. The line that we created already. The line we created already takes into consideration the rows, but do not take into consideration columns. Why? We said it is going to count the rows and the end at the last row where there was data. So here we are not going to use 5 as row, but we are going to use the line as the row. So we are going to combine the column and we are going to use the key and the row which is line A. Exactly. Now what should it be equal to? It should be equal to, in this sales invoice, this our sales invoice, this is where the invoice number is located. So we want that in the sales track at C5 it should carry information from the sales invoice in D4 in this area. So it is going to be equal to sales track, no sheets, sales invoice dot range is not how to spell range D4. This is where it is located at D4. We close it. So this C and the last line is going to be equal to the invoice number each time. it's true I've not yet created the invoice number. We are going to do that shortly. Now we equally have to do the same thing for the date, for the customer's name, for the item code description, and the other elements. So we are going to copy this same thing for this number of elements. We have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 times. We are going to copy this thing and paste 9 times. Just this first section we copy and we paste it here. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. We can delete this one. Okay, so here we were on C and line. Here we are now at D, E, F, G, H. So we edit all of these things to D. Now when you give from all this information, G, H, I, J, K, there is it A, B, C, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. So we have given the informations, we have given the lines already in our sales track, and these lines should be equal to informations here in our sales invoice. So let's reduce this like this. Okay, so what is D, what is in the column D in the sales track? D represents the date, so equals to, we can come here and say it should be equal to this cell in our sheet sales invoice, but we are going to put the date format directly from the VBA code. So to give informations about date in a VBA code, you just say C date, and we want it to give the date now, just like an Excel function is going to give the date now, meaning exact the period or the time at which we are making the invoice. So that is it. The next one here is E. We look for what is in E, the customer's name. In our sales invoice, the customer's name is located in G7, so we can copy this because it's the same thing, and we paste it here, sheet sales invoice dot G7. Exactly. So now we are looking at F here. F represents the item code. Alright, it represents the item code. So in our sales invoice, where is the item code located? In sheet sales invoice. Now we are going to take it is in range from D, but remember that from this row 14 is a list where we want that each time if there is any element in this list, it should also carry it to the sales track. If we say only D14, it will carry only D14. What of the other lines? That is why we actually created this other line, which is going to count the number of rows in question. So we are going to say it is equals to D. We are in F. Yes. Is equal to D and line, how do we name it? We named it line B. So it is going to take from D to line B, where we already know that line B runs in the range C14 to H14. So it is going to take all the informations in column B in this area of C14 to H27. So that is how it's going to look like. So we say this value, we want it to carry just the value, because if we allow it like this, it is going to carry with functions, with the formulas that we wrote inside, just the value. We go to the next one, which is G. Yes, G. We look at G is all about the descriptions. Description is found in E. We added this to E and line B. I hope this is how line B is showing an error message. Line B dot value. Okay, it's showing list separator. Okay, I did not separate it with the AND. Okay, so now here we have H. H is actually going to be the quantity which is in the column F. Okay, I've done same for G, H, I and J. Now I'm left out with K. K here represents K here represents a description, so a kind of comments. So for the comments, there's no cell here in our sales invoice which is going to give a comment directly. Okay, there's this means of payment. We are going to give the comments in terms of the means of payment. So we are going to write something here. We open bracket and we say being sales on or by okay, we are going to mix this being sales on or by with what is going to be in this area. Like it is going to say being sales on, if it's cash it will be being sales on cash, if it is bank it will be being sales by bank, if it is credit being sales on credit, something like that. So we are going to put here our AND sheets. Sales invoice dot range K, it is just range K, which is K3 dot value. So it will just be being sales on what is here, being sales on depending on what is going to be here. What have I not? Okay, this bracket, this inverted commas closer is not put. Okay, so that is it for it. Let's try a bit this code and see whether it is actually functioning. For that, let me put something here. Let me give a customer's name. What else? I think that's all. I've not put the quantities. It's something like this. So to play or to see what is happening here, you need to play this code. You come here and you click on this button. If there is any mistake, it is going to debug, and you have to find out where the problem is actually found. They say block if without end if. Okay, I gave an if function and I did not close it. Every if ends with end if. I forgot it, so let me play it again. Okay, I opened a for and I did not close it, so I'm going to put next. I open for each item, I'm going to close by next item. So when it does it one time, it goes to the next item, and so on and so forth. We stop and play it back. Let's try and see. Maybe I exaggerated on this amount. Maybe there's not a cell that goes up to this. Let's try again. Okay, it has functioned. So when we come here, okay, when we play it, okay, it has functioned with no problem. If we see no message here, it means that it has actually functioned. If we come in our sales track, all right, we realize that it has copied these informations and brought them here inside, and it has actually ignored the spaces which are empty. So that's actually how it is. Let's try and do something. So we are going to create a button here which will all the time whereby we can click on that button and this action repeats itself. So we come to developer, we come on insert, we insert it, but we click on button, sorry, then we come and draw it somewhere here. Let's say new button. Actually it's asking us to come and put the code here inside. That's not actually what we want. we want to insert a code here inside. So we right click on this button, right click, really disturbing, and we say assign macro. We want to assign macro. Our macro that we wrote was invoice. We double click on it, and the macro has actually entered here. So let's remove this one. If we click on it, we're going to see here in our sales track, these two informations will accumulate. It will not come and replace this other one, it will just come down. So that is actually what we wanted this invoice to do. So let's now create the invoice number. We're going to take data, we're going to create a number here. Let's remove all of these stuffs. Okay, we're going to create invoice number. Okay, we want that our invoice should have a particular format, like invoice number something, yeah, something like that. So we want it to have something like, let's say this. Exactly, voila. We want this thing to first of all appear, then we have a number, yes, something like this. Now we are going to merge two, two texts in one. How are we going to do that? We are going to use the function text. The function text, before that we want that this invoice number should appear, and the text, which text value do we want? We want this text, and which format? We want it to have to be in terms of 1000, like we can have 1000 invoices. We'll have 4 zeros before counting 1 2 3, so we're going to put zeros here, the format, and then we close bracket. Exactly, so this is how it's going to look like. So we just put this, the text, and the number of zeros. Yes, so now we want that this invoice number should figure in our sales invoice here. So we are going to say equals to data this figure. So it is always going to show this invoice number all the time. But now we want that as we validate one invoice, we want that this invoice number should move from number 1 to number 2 to number 3 to number 4. So that's what we actually want to do now. In order to do this, we'll have to go to our code. We'll go to our code here in the sales invoice. Actually it's here. We're going to edit this code. We'll edit this code. We're going to add something here inside. Actually we want, in order for this to accumulate, this one should change, right? If I put 2 here, this one is going to move to 2. If I put 4 here, this one is going to be 4. Since here is still 1, this one is still 1. So we want that each time we press on our sales invoice button, this one should move to 2 to 3 to 4 and so on. So we are in sheet data in range K4. So we go to our code, and we say, after doing all of these stuffs here, sheets data dot range, it was G4 if I'm not mistaken, should be equals to, it should be equals to the same value which is inside plus 1. So it should be equals to this same thing, copy and paste, plus 1. So if we had 1 here, it should do this 1 plus 1, and so on and so forth. So let's try this out. We come to our sales invoice. Actually, you will now see invoice number 2, and it has carried our informations to this place. So that's actually what we want. We also want that when we validate this our invoice, this area like this should completely change. should be deleted, meaning we should not have data again. We should empty this space for the next invoice to come up. So how do we do that? We want that when we press here, it should delete this data. You know that only these two cells or columns should be deleted. If we delete this space, it's going to delete our code that we wrote here. So if we delete this one already, all of these other ones are going to disappear. So we're going to go in our code and say that we delete this area. This area is from E14 to F27. So we go into our code, we say, we put another line, we say, after changing the invoice number, we do sheets sales invoice sales invoice dot range, where is it found? In E14 to F27. E14 to F27. We close this. So what should happen? You should clear content. You should clear its content. Clear content. Clear content. I think something like this. So if we play this code, we'll see. Oh, he has not actually deleted it, but okay, you can see it here. Exactly, he has deleted these two columns, and all of these other parts have changed. Our invoice number has equally changed. Then you can see it in our data here. It has been accumulating. Our sales track has equally been going down and down and down and down and down. So that is how we would like our invoice to look like. Now see something, if we press on this button and this place is empty, it's actually going to function. Let's go to our sales track. Nothing is going to happen. Anyhow, we can allow it this way, or we could still put another condition saying that if there is nothing here in this list, we should maybe send a message that you have first of all to impute data inside. Anyhow, let's put another condition here. Okay, before this, so it should verify. First of all, we are going to make a check. If if sheet sales invoice, if sheet sales invoice dot range, let's put it in such a way that if this first line has nothing, we should send an error message. Okay, so we should send a particular message. However, if this cell, it is E14, okay, if E14 is equal to nothing, then, oh, I forgot to put then. After putting the if, you have to end with then. We want our Excel sheet to send else a message. To send a message, we use message box. This is the syntax we use in this case. Message box, we open bracket and we say sorry, to validate an invoice, you have to input data in the invoice list. So this is actually the message we want it to show. So we close this. So if this area is equal to nothing, we send this message, else we want this code to actually function. So if there's actually something in E14, we want this code to function, and to every if there's an end if, we're going to end the if here. We're going to end it here, and let's try it out. If we play message, sorry, to validate an invoice, you have to input data in the invoice list. Okay, it cannot go. So once we put data here, let's say with the quantity, let's change customers this time around. Okay, once we put data here and we press OK, it's actually going to go without sending us the message. Everything is okay, invoice number has changed, our sales track has equally given, you see the date is okay, customers, everything is very okay for our invoice. So in the next video, we are going to see how to use this same idea, this same code, to carry information from this area and send it here inside, same as in our stock exit. We are going to see how to carry information from here and send it here. Basically, these codes are going to be so easy since we have already seen how to write them in our sales invoice. See you for the next video.